Hello, my name is Mike Witt, and welcome to the 2-Minute Groove, where I explain some things about groove funnels. Subscribe to my channel below. Also, I put links of everything about this video below, plus if you're new to Groove, there are sign-up links. So what I want to talk about today is some styling. So I have a very simple page up here where I have header, text link, heading, text link, and I want to talk about styling these things. Now, you're probably familiar that if you click on one of these, you see down at the bottom it says body, block, container, layout 1, container, text. This is kind of a hierarchy, and it kind of conforms to what the HTML that's generated looks like. So let's take a quick look at that. So here's our page. Now in Chrome, if you hit F12, it's going to bring up these developer tools, which shows you the HTML. And if you hover over various parts, it's going to tell you where it is. So you can see that it's highlighting, and we can drill down, and there's these sections. So each one of these is in an HTML section. And if we keep drilling down, and 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 keep drilling down. There's a lot of drill down here. You finally get to this thing that we dragged onto the page, that I dragged onto the page, called an H1 element. And that's what this is. And you can see it says here heading and H1 and so a whole bunch of other stuff. And down below here you can see there's this A, which is the link. It's called an anchor tag. And you can see it has this text link tag here. So all of this is a hierarchy, and you can style it. So one way we've seen to style something is to go over here to this configuration screen and, for example, choose a color. And so that styles it. But what do you want to do if you want some styling on your page and you don't want to have to go through and choose styling for every single little thing you put on a page? Well, that's where CSS comes in, which is the Cascading Style Sheet. So let me drag over a little thing here. So in Groove Funnels, you have something called site settings, you have a body, you have containers, and you have elements. There's a hierarchy. So if you set the color on an element, it's set on that element. But if you set the color of a particular type of element at site settings, it sets it for all those elements unless it's overridden down below. So if I say up here, the H1 color is blue, every time I drag a H1 onto the screen, it's going to be blue, unless I come down here and I say, this particular H1 element is red. So that's the way it works. So to do this, you have to know a little bit about CSS and a little bit about HTML. So I've brought up this screen called W3 Schools, which provides a lot of information. And you can see the first two links are HTML, and it tells you a whole bunch of HTML stuff, and CSS. And what we're really interested in is called selectors. And what a selector does is it selects something in the page and styles it. So one that really applies to us is the, well, this one's a pretty good example anyway. So you can create selectors like for an H1 and say what some of the information is for it, but you can also group them together, and that's what this is doing. H1s, H2s, and Ps have a selector. So you can click try it yourself, and it shows you the page. So you can see that the H1, the H2, and the P all have a text line center, so it's centered, and a color red, so it's red. Now if I were to go in to one of these, let's say this one right here, and say style equals color blue. And so that's some CSS syntax, and I click run. Now you see that this one has overridden what it says up here. Okay, does that make sense? So how can we apply this to our Groove Funnels page? So let's go back to Groove Funnels. And what you do is you can go to Site Settings. And there's a section down here that says Custom CSS. So I just have to do the same thing. I can say H1, curly brace, color blue. And then when I click the check mark, this one gets set to blue because I styled it at the site settings, and this one's still red, or that pink. And there's quite a few other things you can do. For example, the anchor tags. I can say color green. And if I click the check mark, both these anchors, both these links are now green. And I can do something else that's really handy. I can say a:hover color dark green. I think that's a good color. And now when you hover over it, did it change? Maybe it doesn't recognize that color. Let's just call it gray. Now when I hover over it, it's gray. Now, like I said, you can do all these things on the styling page. So for example, on the text, I can say, hey, the color of this one is this color blue. And then if I hover, the color should be this color blue. So now this one's different than that one. And you can also do this at the page level. So if I go to Pages and go to the home page and say Edit Settings, there's some custom CSS here, and it's already got some stuff in it that GrooveFunnels put there. And I thought I saw H1 in there. No, that's HR. Different thing. So we'll just go down to the bottom. Blah, blah, blah. All the way down to the bottom. And here I can say H1 color yellow. I click the check mark, and now this one's yellow. This one's still defined on the element itself, and the site setting has been overridden by the page setting. So if I take this and remove the color, now it's yellow. So I hope that's a good introduction to CSS and HTML, and that you get some use out of this.